So Keir Starmer has been smeared by the Sun. Now, it's not often I defend Starmer, nor do I think he particularly deserves it. However, unlike the right who like to lie and smear their political opponents, I'm not going to support misinformation. I mean, there's plenty of legit criticisms I have of Starmer. That doesn't mean I'm going to sit back and watch the Scum newspaper unfairly attack someone. Saved by Starmer. Sir Keir Starmer worked for free as a lawyer to save baby killers and axe murderers. Wow, what an awful human. But let's dive in. Sir Keir Starmer worked for free as a lawyer to help scores of twisted killers around the world, including a monster who buried his 2-year-old stepchild alive. The former lawyer once bragged he got his knighthood for a 20-year litigation strategy across the world to get rid of the death penalty. Now, I feel like that bit is really relevant, but let's continue. But the Sun can reveal that his free legal work helped some sick criminals reduce their sentences or even walk free from jail. Our investigation reveals they included Jamaican Lambert Watson, who slaughtered his girlfriend and 9-month-old baby by stabbing them in the neck. Sir Keir also helped Malawian murderer Francis Kafantayeni, who tied up his 2-year-old stepson before burying him alive, and a Ugandan axe killer who slaughtered his girlfriend in front of her children was also spared execution by a law change Sir Keir campaigned for as a founding member of the Death Penalty Project. So the Sun uses very descriptive language of these crimes that these people committed. Obviously, they want to garner an emotional response here, but even in their own hit piece, they admit the reason behind it. So for all the awful things Starmer did as director of public prosecutions, one of the good things he did as a lawyer when he was younger was to fight to stop criminals facing the death penalty. Of course, he was fighting to abolish it in its totality, which is good. Death penalty, bad. This isn't an endorsement of these crimes. This is Starmer quite literally doing his job as a human rights lawyer. But the Sun is painting him as someone who thought, baby killers, I want to help them. That's just not the case. Now, the rest of the article goes on to talk about more crimes, as if that somehow changes the facts. I don't care if the Sun has 100 examples of vile individuals. Opposing the death penalty is a good thing. It was officially abolished in the UK in 1998. Now, I do find this funny. As much as I hate the Sun and how much they anger me when it comes to smears and lies, it's just a little bit cathartic when you see Starmer get just a smidge of the Corbyn treatment. Corbyn was attacked relentlessly from the very beginning. And when I say beginning, I mean beginning. He was attacked as soon as he announced he was going to try and get on the leadership ballot. I mean, he hadn't even won. He hadn't even got enough signatures to get on the ballot to run for leader when the attacks started coming in. Now, from that point, it never stopped, and it still continues to this day. And he hasn't been leader for 4 years. What really annoys me is watching Starmer supporters and high-up Labour officials cry foul at this when not only they stood silent when Corbyn was dragged, they joined in. They participated in the destruction of Corbyn's image because they decided it will be better to side with the right-wing press in order to get rid of him. Now, Blairites may pretend to think that the right are their enemies, but they are not as big of an enemy as the left. So I'm kind of happy they're getting a taste of their own medicine. However, Starmer's had an easy rise since becoming leader, and he's very much the friend of the establishment. So he will have those in the mainstream commentariat defend him against the Sun. So when you have legacy media largely behind you, or rather they see no urgency to completely dismantle him as a man, that kind of delegitimizes the attacks from the Sun. So I don't think this will do all that much damage, but when you had the right-wing press against Corbyn, you also had the so-called sensibles join in, you had the BBC join in, then that completely legitimizes all the bogus attacks, and ordinary voters were clearly more susceptible to the lies. In fact, it wasn't the likes of the Sun that did the damage to Corbyn. Many people ignore the Sun. Many people know that the right-wing press are sensationalist. What did the damage was the mainstream media, namely the BBC. Out of all the outlets, the BBC is still the most trusted. I mean, people quite literally take them at their word. But when you had BBC Newsnight photoshopping Corbyn with Russian-style typography, photoshopping a Trump MAGA hat on him, or putting Corbyn's face on Voldemort, these infantile attacks you would expect from the Sun, coming from a quote-unquote reputable source, people would take that far more seriously. And even more so, the media bias, which I argue is way more harmful than smears and attacks, because attacks are quite upfront, they're obvious, and not everyone falls for it. but subtle bias is incredibly dangerous. Things such as all the mainstream pundits, including Laura Kuenssberg, legitimizing a false story that a Labour activist punched a Tory member, the whole anti-Semitism story, making Corbyn out to be pro-Putin or pro-IRA, many other things we saw from the mainstream media, not just the right-wing press. So it'll be very interesting to see how Lotto handles this. I mean, Starmer is terrible when it comes to the smallest level of scrutiny. He isn't good in the media. I mean, he relies largely on the media giving him an easy ride, whilst at the same time, the Tories are self-destructing. But when he's asked simple questions such as, what are your policies? Or how do you differ from the Tory government? Which he was literally asked at his last speech, he gave terrible answers. So, yeah, screw the Sun. I mean, I think it's ironic that they are attacking him for the one good thing he did do when there are plenty of legitimate attacks they could go for. I mean, they could have attacked Starmer trying his best to get Gary McKinnon extradited to the US, an autistic man who hacked into the Pentagon to find evidence of UFOs, something even Theresa May opposed. But I guess that wasn't sensationalist enough, and probably the Sun agreed with Starmer on that. But this is nothing compared to what Corbyn got. But I'm definitely intrigued in how Starmer will respond, whether there's going to be more attacks, I don't know, but ultimately, I don't think this will make much of a difference.